All right, so we are now recording, so I'm going to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandy Kaiser. I am one of the Employment First Specialists for the state of Missouri. So Stephen Taylor, who is our other Employment First Specialist on the western side of the state, he is not able to join us today. So you just have me. Sorry about that. So for those of you who are not familiar with us, we started this back in January as a way to engage with more support coordinators. So that's kind of our target audience. However, we are very open to having anybody and everybody join us. So each month we kind of focus on a little different topic, and this month we decided to kind of take a closer look at transportation. So for this month and next month, we're going to focus on that transportation. This month, we're going to talk about some of the resources available to assist us, and then next month we'll kind of talk a little bit more about coordinating transportation. So a little housekeeping before we get started. So all of the attendees, you guys are muted. You cannot talk to us. So the only way we're going to hear from you is if you use the lovely chat box. So when chatting with us, you want to make sure that in the drop-down menu, you have everyone selected. But if you're a little bit shy and you don't want everyone seeing your question or comment, make sure that at least you have all panelists selected. That makes sure that Chad, Lisa, our ghost behind the scenes, and myself can at least see your question and be able to respond. If you're experiencing technical difficulties and the assistance you're needing is more from our ghost behind the scenes, our host, instead of the panelist, you just want to make sure that you choose host. So other than that, we do have poll questions. We do expect that you guys will be putting things in the chat box. We want this to be very engaging. We want to hear from you. So the more participation, the better. So to get us all started, we're going to start off with a poll question. And what we want to know is, what's your role? Are you a support coordinator? Are you one of our contracted service providers? Are you a regional office employee? Maybe you're the UR chair or the self-directed support coordinator or assistant director. Let us know what you are. Maybe you work for another state office, VR, Department of Higher Education. Maybe you're from our behavioral health side. Or maybe you're an individual, a family member, or somebody else. So you guys will have about a minute and a half. The poll has already started, so go in and put your response in. And Kat, for some reason, it's saying the poll has ended. I don't know if you can start that back up again. And it doesn't seem to be refreshing. So, as with anything, we always at some point encounter some technical difficulties. So it's always a learning experience. So some individuals are just saying, hey, let's use this chat box for that. So feel free to use the chat box to put in your response, and we're going to move forward. So as I mentioned, today's topic is going to be all about transportation. So we have Chad Egan from Mo Rides, who is going to talk about how we can utilize that resource for figuring out what are the transportation options in the county we need, and what might be most feasible for somebody. We also have Lisa Womack from from Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, excuse me. She will be talking all about that public transportation, what it is, what it isn't, giving us some tips and strategies for helping us advocate for those accommodations that people might need. So All righty. So now we have another poll question. Hopefully this one runs a little bit smoother and doesn't get ended quickly. So for this one, we want to know, how much do you know about Mo Rides? Maybe you've never heard anything about it and this is the first time and you're kind of like, this is the first time I've heard something about it. Maybe you know about it, but you've never used it. Or maybe you've used it some, but it's sporadic. It's been a while. Maybe it hasn't been anything recent. Um, or maybe you use it all the time and you're always sharing this resource with others. So hopefully we can get that poll question pulled up and you guys can answer that. There we go. You've got about 1 minute. Go. Okay, it looks like our poll has ended, and can we have the results, please? All right, so it looks like the majority of people haven't heard anything about it, so you guys have come to the right webinar. Hopefully by the time you leave this, you're going to feel like you have a lot more familiarity with Mo Rides and you know how to use it. So next close answer, people have heard about it, but they've never used it. So again, hopefully after today, you guys will feel a little bit more comfortable with being able to use it and share this resource with others. So awesome. All right, so now I am going to hand things over to Chad Egan with Mo Rides. So Chad?
All right, thank you, Sandy. You hear me okay? Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here. I just wanted to say that I am the director at Boonslick Regional Planning Commission. I am not the manager of Mo Rides. We will have a new manager on board this month, but I have been involved since 2015. But I'd like to give you a little background real quick on Mo Rides. Mo Rides was a planning project that started out in 2013, and it came through a series of regional plans, and they are called Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plans. So in the planning world, we come up with all these great names for things. Unfortunately, nobody necessarily knows what they mean except for the planners. So we are trying to change that with Mo Rides. We really are, because the other obstacle we run into is, what's mobility management? And so that would be a question that you would ask. Well, all of the people that fund programs that we operate, they know what mobility management is, but nobody that uses it knows what mobility management is. Eventually they become acclimated, but so anyway, Mo Rides is a program that the Boonslick Regional Planning Commission operates. And I want to take one more step back with regional planning commissions. The state of Missouri is divided into 19 different regions. And so you really, what I'd like you to take away from this is to know, what county that you're working in and serving, and then what region that is in. Because for me, other than Mo Rides, it's important that you know what region you're in, because every 5 years they update these plans that I mentioned, the human services plans, and these are for all of the providers and the service industries in every county and every region of the state. And so we'd like you to be represented with those planning processes, because then we know about, the difficulties that you're having. Or I really like the poll question. 20 out of 37 has never heard of Mo Rides. So if we don't know that kind of information, we really don't know who we need to talk to still in our audience. We always want to help people, but it really helps to understand who needs that help. And I think a lot of the support coordinators, I think highly of you guys and the role that you play, because your clients are in that same position where they know they need help. They really don't know where to ask. They don't know who to talk to. And you are that helping hand that takes them and either provides them information or makes contact for them, and really lays it out on how to make it work. And so with Mo Rides, it's not our official theme. However, we like to think of ourselves and our role as we help connect the dots for people. And we know that there are a lot of people out there that talk about transportation options. And I don't want to single groups out, but there are public options, and they get money from the government to help people. And there are private options, and both can be very helpful depending on what region you're in. But in our case, we're on the Metro St. Louis area, so we're just west of St. Charles, and there are a lot of people that don't have transportation options in our area. They can't take public transit, but they can change their schedule if they know public transit is available. So I know for us, the Oats bus is big in our area. The Oats bus will connect to the other public transit agencies, and I'm interested to hear about Kansas City too, because they have another coordinated system. But basically, I say all this because Mo Rides helps you guys, and it helps the users understand what are their options and how do they make those connections. Because a lot of the fear that people have is the unknown. And so most of them, they don't know the particulars of transportation. They don't know necessarily where to go to look for information, who to talk to. But also, a lot of times they don't know that there is funding available to pay for their ride based on their place in life or the medical options that they may have. And that may take care of a lot of the issues. But until we talk to people, we really don't know that information. So please feel free to call us, and the numbers will be on the slides coming up. But they will also be a website. If anything, go to the website, morides.org. Our phone number is on there, and we are there to help. We have a grassroots approach to this, and we're willing to lend a hand, take a phone call, send an email, and we'd also be very interested in coming and doing presentations. If you have small groups that you'd like us to present for, we really want to get back in touch with people, especially since the pandemic. And we found that the small group setting is very effective, and we've done a lot of those. So I know that's a lot for the first slide. I want to give you that background, though, so you know where we're coming from. But like I said, we started out in 2013, and we were just a planning study, and that rolled into a pilot project from 2014 to 2017. And so we had 3 different pilots throughout the state. And the reason I say that is Mo Rides started out as that grassroots approach. We went to seniors, senior complexes. We went to independent living centers, chambers of commerce, and we gave a lot of presentations. We asked questions, and we started to find out what people needed. We started a call center. We started a website. We've updated the website twice. And we consider ourselves continually evolving to meet the needs of those people and their transportation needs. So we do not provide transportation at this point in time, but I would really like to purchase buses and start providing our own transportation, not to go against the other providers, but we just know that there's a lot of need out there, and there's a lot of gaps in service, and a lot of people need just special circumstances dictate that they need a ride at a certain time. They can't catch it at 8 o'clock, or they're not there on the 3rd Thursday of the month. But if they could, we help them coordinate that too. But anyway, we always see this as an evolution. And so if there are things that we can make better, we want that feedback from you guys to let us know what else we can do. And we also want to know what the needs are. If the needs are changing, we would like to evolve our own program and make contact with the network that we have. And I think if you take away anything from today, other than if you need help, go to the website or give us a call, is we have contacts with other state departments. We have contacts with other states. We have other regions, regional planning commissions, and we're also in contact on the national level. So if there are things that you need, if there are resources you're looking for, if there are changes to make, we feel like we're a good forum for those conversations. And that is not about necessarily transportation as a ride, but it does involve transportation and getting you to where you need to go. So I will start with the slides now. And if you have questions, I do see the chat box, or if you want to go through Sandy, that's fine too. We can do them as we go. We can do them at the end. I'll stick around for the whole session. And also we can email any follow-up or phone calls. So Mo Rides, it does connect individuals. It is there to help for transportation needs. And as I said, we don't provide the ride, but we help coordinate the ride for you. Our two target audiences, I will tell you, are older adults. We used to call them senior citizens, now older adults, right? And the disabled. Those are our two focus groups. Those are not the only groups we help, but those are the ones that we have found have the most need. Another one is low income individuals. You know, they cannot afford a ride, and an Uber or Lyft, you know, they may offer it for $35 one way, but somebody can't afford $35 one way to go to the store or doctor's appointment. So we do try to find the best affordable providers in the area. We try to give you three options. And so I'll go through, if we have time at the end, I'll go through the website. We'll go through a typical call that we get. But we do partner with organizations across the whole state of Missouri. So just because you're in a certain county, don't think that you're not included. We started out in our own region, which is Montgomery County, Warren County, Lincoln County, Franklin County, St. Charles County. So just west of St. Louis. But we have expanded numerous times, and we do cover every county in the state. And what we do is we coordinate with the locals. So like in Kansas City, we would coordinate with the transportation providers in Kansas City. But you see our number on there. And just so you guys know, back when we started this, we had long distance charges for our phone. And so that 844 number that you see on the screen is a toll-free number. For most people with cell phones, that doesn't matter anymore. But if you do have older adults or anyone that has a landline, they are free to call that number. There's no charges involved. Just I wanted especially the support coordinators to know that if you wanted to give out our number, there's not going to be a charge. So they can call 844-836-7433, toll free. Also, we have an email address there. If anything, if all else fails, morides.org. Anyway, we do partner with other groups. I mentioned we are a transportation group. We are a planning group. So we have other organizations throughout the state that you can get a hold of, and we can utilize them on the local level to help you with your transportation needs. So mobility management, I mentioned that term earlier. A lot of people, it's a foreign term to them, but mobility management is just like the slide has on there. It's coordinating rides, it's coordinating transportation with the people that need it and the providers that give that service. And that is not just for a doctor's appointment. It could be to go to the movies. It could be go to the grocery store. It could be for summer camp. We've had people with special needs who have gone to the Lake of the Ozarks in central Missouri for Wonderland Camp, and they did not have a ride to connect to their other ride. So they called Mo Rides, and we were able to connect them to another provider who could take them down to camp. And, you know, if you have anyone that you know with special needs, I mean, that's what they look forward to every year. So we are there to improve access. We're looking for affordable options, and we give you multiple choices so that you can pick what is best for your scenario and your situation. We also have been working with providers on vouchers and being able to help pay for those rides. So depending on your circumstances, we try to evaluate all the funding options that we have and the best transportation groups that we know of to assist you with your needs. And so I put on there the goals because we really are there to assist the users. And by assisting the users, we assist those support coordinators, those parents, because they're the ones that are making the phone calls and making the connections for people. So we are there to help. We're there to find affordable transportation options. And we do call and check on everyone that calls us. We call everyone back to ensure that if you got a ride or not. And really that helps us, but it's also that satisfaction to make sure that we know that you got a ride. Oh, I think I went the wrong way. Sorry about that. This is just a snapshot. So we get about 100 calls a month. And you can see the counties that are split out there and the calls that are coming in and what they're for. So you can see that 67% of the calls are for medical transportation. And I can share this information with you all as well. We do keep up on this. How many rides we were able to coordinate. Some people are just looking for information, so we provide information and it's not a ride. That's some of those. Some of them are for work. We're finding more and more people want to work, but they don't have a ride. And so we're trying to work with those other providers to make sure that, we have a rideshare program. Or if they're going on public transit, maybe, somebody can go with them. And we'd like to do maybe an ambassador program in the future too, to be there, to have that helping hand, to help people find transportation and overcome any of those barriers. MoDOT is another partner that we have as a regional planning commission, and we partner with them every year and we come up with a need. So I mentioned that human services plan. Please let me know if you have questions about that. If you're curious about what region you're in throughout the state, we really need your feedback during those planning sessions so that we can report to MoDOT to say, listen, everyone in these counties wants more transit. We need to have money because that helps them talk to the other federal legislators that they work with and they partner with. So anyway, according to their citizens guide, which they did in 19, there's $80 million of unfunded transportation needs every year. You know that the gas tax just passed. We look for the governor to sign that. That will be a small increase in Missouri, but you can see on the graphic, the per capita spending on transit in Missouri compared to other states is extremely, extremely low. And I know Kentucky is in a similar situation to us. They have a lot of rural areas like that. But we have found even in our state, getting to St. Louis, getting to Kansas City, getting to Springfield, getting to Columbia, that's the major need because that's where the healthcare providers are. That's where other regional opportunities are for people. So if we can get people from the rural areas to those metro areas, that is something of value. And we've been working with OATS and SMTS as the public transit providers in every county of the state to look at more of those opportunities. So coordination, that's the key. Coordination is when multiple groups work together, but really it goes back to our goal. Our goal is to overcome transportation barriers, and we know that we can't do it alone. We know that you can't do it alone, but we're there to help, and we're there to help make ends meet. And as I said, we'd like to connect the dots. So we know that we don't provide the ride, but we want to give you 3 or 4 options so that you can find a ride. But coordination, what we found is the key. And behind the coordination is actually explaining things to people, providing them that information so that they can understand, if I need to go to dialysis, do I qualify for not? Will Medicaid pay for that? And if they do, great. Now we have coordinated rides, and it's through you guys too, as support coordinators. We've helped you help the other people. So in a sense, that is the coordination that we're looking for. We're looking to provide information to help you do your jobs and to help people get the transportation needs that they have out there. This is a slide. It's probably easier if we just send these out to people. But it goes through the integration part of our coordination. And I've talked a lot about these things already, but the main thing is we need you to be able to coordinate with us on what is your need. Tell us what that is. Talk to us about what you've tried, and we'll give you feedback on that. We'll give you some other options that we know of. We are not a state department, but we act like a state department as far as our institutional knowledge. You know, we've been around for a while, and in the mobility world, 2013 was a long time ago, and so we have kept that information within our organization and have trained our mobility managers, as they were called, program administrators, on all of the issues that have come up. So that helps with our coordination, but also you have to understand, just like you guys in the State Department, we are connected to a lot of different groups, transportation groups, planning groups, economic development groups, workforce groups, and they all have transportation needs. So they are all curious about what we do, and that's that collaboration effort. And then on the consolidation side, you know, we try to have just one entity, one point of contact. So we had 3 pilots I mentioned throughout the state when they were figuring out what to do with mobility management. We wanted to consolidate that into one name. So instead of having Kansas City wasn't one of them, but I'll just say Kansas. Instead of having Kansas City rides and St. Louis rides and Lake of the Ozarks rides, we agreed on Mo Rides. So we have had that name and that branding out there as one entity, and we may have 3 or 4 groups that help us with those things, but they're all going to be under that umbrella of Mo Rides. That way it keeps it simple for everyone. And then you have one website, one point of contact to go to. So some of the benefits, this is really for our federal grant funds that come through with FTA. I mentioned to you our 2 target groups, older adults and disabled, but these are some of the other goals that we have that coordinated transportation can help provide. And we've talked a lot about the inefficiencies of multiple providers, and that would be 2 buses showing up at the same place with 1 person in each bus and 10 to 12 empty seats for the rest of them. So we have worked, I know, with the Department of Mental Health and with other departments on making sure that if we have seats available, if people can ride together, we try to share rides, you know, eliminate those inefficiencies, stretch those dollars as far as we can. And that has led to a lot of operating cost savings, which again, that just helps put out more opportunities, more routes. In a community, the people matter and the people know what's going on. And so at the level that we're at, we are really looking for those affordable options for people. And if we can help them with that, and if we can help those communities find those options, then that's what we're going to do. And one of the ones I wanted to quickly mention was the link. So the link is operated by OATS. It's not a separate transportation provider. It's coordination on a county-wide level. So they have routes that they run every day. It's OATS buses that run the routes. It's a dedicated route, but you just need to know where your point is where you can get on that route. So it's in Lincoln County. It's north of St. Charles. It's Troy, and it's on the eastern side of the state, but they're small towns. You know, they're small towns of 300 to 1,000 to 3,000. And they go to the city of Troy, which is 12,000 on a regular basis every day, because that's where most of the things are. That's where the stores are. That's where the jobs are. And so they get on the bus in the morning and they go to Troy. And the bus brings them home at night. But they have then seen definite increases in ridership because they have a route that's there on a continual basis, and that route can provide opportunities for them. So the link is a great case study. Be happy to talk about that more. I wanted to mention that. And it's not us providing the transportation, it's us helping coordinate and helping people understand what their options are. And the OATS buses are the ones delivering the folks. So finding a ride, I mentioned the website. Sandy, you can tell me if we have time, if you want to go through this now, or if you want to go through it at the end. I'm happy. I know I was talking a little bit too long there, but morides.org is our website. If I could show you real quick the website, or if you want to skip it, that's fine too. You just tell me.
So what I'm thinking for us to do that demo, we'll go ahead and skip through these slides really quick. So for those of you on the call, in the presentation, there is that step-by-step instruction. So like I said, this will become available later this month or next month. We will have the slideshow available that people can download it from our website. If you need it before then, please reach out to me. And I did put my email address in the chat box so that you can reach out to me directly and I can send you a copy of the presentation. So let's go ahead and go to that, I think, slide number 21, and we can switch to actually taking people through the website. So Chad, you want to pass me the ball?
Sure. Hey, there you go.
Okay, there we go. Got it. All right, so everyone should be seeing the website, morides.org. First place we're going to go to is Find a Ride. Now we need a county. So you guys need to put us let us know what county in the chat box. And Chad or Lisa, if you can let me know the first one that you see.
Perry.
Perry?
Perry County.
All right, Perry County. So going down to the P's. Here we go, Perry County. Okay. So Chad, what do I need to do next?
Okay, so you selected your county, and if you have a phone, this is made for a phone too. You can just do by your location. It'll pick up your GPS location. But if you're on a computer, then you're going to select search for transportation providers, the blue.
Okay.
Again, if you need help, please give us a call. If you scroll down just a little bit, okay, these are all of the providers that we know of, and they are for different transportation needs. But you'll see at the top SMTS. The algorithm that we have at Mo Rides, every top entry will be a public transit agency. We feel like they are our partners. They are receiving federal funds. So we will put our public transit providers first. So then, yes, if you click on their name, it pulls up their phone number. It pulls up the website, the location of their office, wheelchair accessible, and if they're demand response, if they're fixed, if they're public transit. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to call us. We do have a call center and we will walk you through that. But those are your transportation options for Perry County. We have them for each county. So you'll see on there like Angel Flight. Obviously, that's a specialized flight just for certain things, and we'll explain that to you too. Lyft is on there. Disabled American Veterans. Obviously, you have to be a veteran in order to be part of Disabled American Veterans. Logisticare is a big one for any kind of Medicaid treatments. But we may have two that you will need to get to where you're going, especially if you're going to St. Louis. You may have to have one ride into town and then another ride pick you up from there. So we have all those listed, but the public ones are first. So SMTS is a public transportation provider, public transit.
Right. So before we get off this, are there any questions from our attendees? Anything you want us to show you on the website real quick?
And I will say, as closing thought, if you guys get together in a group and have several coordinators in a region, or if you have a statewide group that you want a presentation on this and to go into more details, I'd be happy to come and walk you through that, or take you through a typical phone call that we have and bring our managers there too. And sorry, Elisa, I don't want to take up any of your time as well.
All right.
Thank you all very much, though. Appreciate it.
So I'm going to stop sharing this. So thank you very much, Chad. And again, you guys have any questions? You can definitely reach out to Mo Rides directly. There's that phone number. There's also that email. Chad, can people contact you directly if they have questions, especially about what you were talking about, those regional planning committees and how individuals can get involved in advocating for their transportation needs?
Yes. Do you want me to put my phone number and email in the chat box?
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So, all right. Thank you so much, Chad. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you taking time. All right. So, our next guest speaker is Lisa Womack from Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. Like I said earlier, she is going to talk to us all about that public transportation so we can understand it a little bit more, what it is, what we can expect, kind of talking about paratransit as well as a function of that public transportation. So, and then again, talking about how we can request accommodations and what those accommodations might look like. So, um, what we want to know real quick, how well do you guys know your public transportation? So in the chat box, or hopefully the poll will pull up okay. And you'll have 4 options. Don't have any public transportation available in my county, or I know it's available, but I don't even know who provides it. Or okay, I know who provides it, I know how to access it, all right. And then of course, hey, I not only know who provides it and how to access it, I've even used it myself, or I've even helped people access accommodations. So go ahead and let us know how how familiar are you with your public transportation. You've got about 40 minutes left, or 40 seconds left, excuse me. Okay, so our poll has ended. So now if we can get the results. All right. So it looks like majority of people um, know it's available, but they're just not sure who provides it. And closely behind that group is a number of people who have actually even used the public transportation themselves, have accessed accommodations when needed. So, all right, great way for us to hand it over to Lisa here in a second. So, I'm going to give the ball over to Lisa, and she's going to talk to us about public transportation. Lisa,
Right.
it's yours.
I caught it. Okay. Thank you. And hey, everybody, thank you for having me. My name is Lisa Womack. I'm the Director of Mobility Services at KCATA. And I actually represent Ride KC, which is the service that actually has 4 transit agencies behind it in Independence, in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, Wyandotte County, and Johnson County in Kansas. So we used some mobility management tactics and over the past years, and have coordinated and are still, I think we're still a work in progress on making sure that from the customer facing side that we are working very hard to be a seamless transportation option in the Kansas City metropolitan area. So I was asked, and I'm excited that I was asked to talk just about what your options are when you're talking about public transportation. So I thought that it would be a good idea to talk about what we have here, because most public agencies have either one or some form of what we have, and some have probably more than what we have. Some of the larger systems have more than what we have, but there should be something that sounds familiar if you have some public transportation in your area. So, and also knowing that when we talk about the mobility management piece from a public transit agency, we love all the options, not just ours. So we work with Oats, and Oats is actually a partner of ours in part of our service area, but even the Ubers and Lyfts and anything else that's out there, we welcome it as long as people are able to get from here to there. That's our goal, is to make sure that we are providing everything that we know about what we have. And hopefully every other transit agency is in that same space. But so ride sharing is just what it sounds like. There's usually some form of that, and I'll dig into some of these in different ways. A lot of agencies have van pool programs. We at one point had one up until January of this year, where and a van pool program is usually where there's a van, a certain amount of people work here, and they all kind of maybe live within a 5-mile radius, and a public transit agency may subsidize a part of the price to rent that van, and the rest, and then the people get a discounted rate. So as an example, we had an account or a contract with Enterprise. So we had, and COVID actually really is the reason why our van pool program kind of dwindled, and hopefully we'll get it back up again. But we at one point had maybe 100 or so van pools that were running. And basically you'd have anywhere from 5 to up to 12 people who all paid into sharing for a vehicle, and they would have one primary driver, one secondary driver. Everybody didn't have to know how to drive, but they all paid a shared piece of that vehicle, and that included gas, maintenance, and then an upgrade of the vehicle once it got to a certain amount of mileage. And it was great. There was a lot of employers could help coordinate that with no liability. All the liability was typically on either us as the agency or our contractor Enterprise. So that's one thing to look at if there's a ride share or a van pool program. So if you hear those names, I just want to kind of give you the familiarity of all the buzzwords that we all say that we know that nobody else uses unless and until transportation is an issue. And I got farther ahead of myself because I was taking notes when Chad was talking, because I'm a pretty big fan of Mo Rides, and I remember when they started. We also have a transportation plan, and you're asking if there's a way to find out if there's rideshare or van pool program in a particular county. And you might actually almost have to go to the county, especially, I'm not sure of every county, but you might either have to go to the transit agency first and find out if it's there, because usually they come through a transit agency when they're public. However, we have Hallmark here, and Hallmark, before we had van pool, had van pools that they sponsored. So sometimes you might find, and it's rare, a large employer who has actually put a little transportation department inside of the company. But I would suggest going to the transit agency closest to you first, and then if not, maybe check in with and see if maybe Mo Rides can help you find that out. It would just depend. Not sure where I went. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm looking in the chat as well, and I'll try to answer your questions as they come up. Rideshare, van pool, that's available. We also partner with bike share, and we actually even partner with scooters here. So as those become available, I encourage, if someone is physically able to use those are a great form of transportation to either connect you with something bigger if you're in a more suburban area, or just get you if you're just kind of going a short distance. When we get to bigger vehicles, we have fixed, flexed, and express and commuter routes. And I think it's important to understand what those are when we get into the paratransit. So I'm going to kind of go through those. A fixed route is kind of what it says. So when we talk about going to a bus stop, it's what most people think of when they think about bus companies, is a fixed route bus. It starts in the morning and sometime at night, late evening. It goes in the same route. It has exact predictable points and times that it does, and they're usually anywhere between 15, 30, 45 minutes, and not much longer on a fixed route. And they just go, they don't deviate, they just drive this thing, this route, this circle, or whatever shape it makes, and that's what they do. You also have smaller routes, which are called flex routes. Flex routes are typically in a very smaller area, usually someplace where fixed route isn't maybe the most appropriate, or to connect people to a fixed route, and they can deviate a little bit from their route. They are a lot of times a curb to curb service, although they can sometimes pick people up if there's bus stops in there. It just depends. It's a lot of different agencies use flex routes differently, but they can typically deviate, and they have different hours. Ours, we have some curb to curb service, but you have to call ahead of time. And so you might have a flexed route. Remember the fixed route, though, because that's what we'll talk about when we talk about paratransit. And then express and commuter bus routes are usually designed exactly for that. They're designed for a commuter run. So those routes are usually run in, might go from like a maybe a little bit further out suburban area into your downtown where you might have a big employment hub, or that maybe not even downtown. They might go to some other business park that has a lot of employment, but they are typically designed to center around some type of employment. And those hours are usually around whatever that area runs. So we have express routes that come into our downtown area. They start at 5 in the morning, shut down around 8, and not 8:39, and then they don't start back up again until about 3:30. And they're just basically used as a commuter to get into a employment hub. Microtransit is kind of our new shiny word that we have. It's a new service. It's very similar, in my opinion, to flex services. It's a small little service, or it's a smaller service area, and it's going to provide you with, the difference is that it provides you with an on-demand service. So it's sort of like a shared Uber on steroids, maybe. So you have a service area. You almost always have a mobile app. If you're lucky, you have a web portal, because isn't that great as a support person to be able to just go online and help somebody set up a trip? And we have that, and I think it's a great tool for you to use. And then you should public transportation always has to be accessible. So everything that we have, we always usually have a call-in number for anybody who doesn't have a mobile app. And yes, all of our services are accessible. So microtransit is sort of like a upgraded flex route, better software. It's on demand, and it's I just always call it like a shared Uber-ish. It's Uber-ish in my thought process. And I could talk about that more if you want. Then you know what streetcar is, and I was redundant and put bus on there as well. So then we get into paratransit, and paratransit's a big, it can be a big, scary thing or not, depending on if you've ever had to dive in as a support coordinator and help somebody get through the process. So I'm hoping when I'm done, it'll be maybe just a teeny bit easier. Paratransit can be either ADA or non-ADA. And the difference with paratransit, ADA is based on your fixed routes. So if you have that fixed route, that same predictable time points that are 15, 30, 40, 45 minutes to an hour, the FTA says if you're getting federal funding and you have a fixed route, then you have to provide people who have disabilities with an option if they can't get to the bus stop. So if you've ever encountered ADA paratransit and you go through an eligibility process, and that's also guided by the FTA. So the eligibility process that any transit agency that you're dealing with is very much guided and built around what FTA standards say they need to be, in addition to the American with Disabilities Act. So because it's a service that we have to provide, we can't necessarily plan for, because we have to provide whatever the demand is. We have an eligibility process to make sure that the people who really need that service get it, and that we can have a process that if you're someone who maybe has a little bit more mobility and can use a fixed route, we can direct you in that way so that we make sure we keep this service for people who really can't get to a bus stop. What's different about that is the eligibility process for ADA has nothing to do with the person's diagnosis per se. So people that are looking at eligibility are typically not medical doctors. They're not medically trained. They have training in how different disabilities and diagnoses might affect people. But what they're trying to do is figure out if that applicant has the mobility to get to a bus stop. And a lot of times I do hear from caseworkers that, well, it's really dangerous and that area is really, I don't like it. And if you just talk to me personally, I'll be like, yeah, I know, I hate that. However, from a transit agency perspective, it's really about the mobility and a person's ability to get to or from that bus stop. And that could be because of their mobility, or either physically and or cognitively, because sometimes you just cognitively shouldn't travel around by yourself on a fixed route bus. Maybe you need a little bit more from the door-to-door perspective, right? But it doesn't mean because they live in a bad neighborhood and it's just kind of yucky and you don't feel comfortable, that doesn't necessarily give you the eligibility, if that makes sense. Then on the other side of the fence, you have the non-ADA services. So we have a little mix of that. So you have, we have a big county here in Kansas, Johnson County, which you probably already know if you live anywhere close over here. They don't have fixed route buses. They have flex, express, commuter. But they're a county that understands that they have a responsibility to their community for the people over 65, for your people with disabilities. So they have a paratransit service that they run as well. It's non-ADA, so it's different. So on the ADA side, when you have, again, based on that fixed route, that service is going to run when those buses run. So if I apply for paratransit and I live by the Main Street route, then I can get paratransit service when that Main Street route runs and within 3/4 of a mile of that Main Street route. If I live in Johnson County, which doesn't have ADA, and I apply for non-ADA services and it's paratransit and it's still going to pick me up, then they pick the hours that they want to run, the price that they want to charge, and where they want to go. So we have some rules that we follow on the FTA ADA side, and on the non-ADA side, it's basically based on whatever a jurisdiction or an agency has budgeted for. In addition, if you have some public transit agencies, there's other accessible programs or other programs that we have for people who may need some help. Johnson County has a low income program for their paratransit. So their paratransit, which is non-ADA, they offer it to people with disabilities. They offer it to, I will explain it again. They offer it to people with disabilities. They offer it to people over 65, and then they also have a low income component. So I'm going to say this again. So if you have a fixed route, if you have a public transportation fixed route, the FTA is going to mandate that you have ADA transportation. ADA transportation is going to run within 3/4 of a mile of the bus route that is by the person that's applying for paratransit, and also run at the same times in areas 3/4 of a mile at their destination. Non-ADA means I don't have any fixed route. All I want to do is make sure that I still provide this curb to curb or door to door service to the people who need it in my community. So I'm going to make a service that looks just like this one, but that just means they get to make the rules. So they can set the hours, they can set the rate, and they can set their service area. We don't, on the ADA side, we don't have that same leeway. Our hours are based on whatever the bus routes are in that area. Our service area is always 3/4 of a mile of whatever those those fixed routes are. And our fare can never be more than twice whatever the bus fare is. So if a bus fare is $1, ADA paratransit can never be more than $2. It can either be $1, it can be free, or it can be $2, but it can never be more. Whereas on the non-ADA side, I can say, well, I only have this much money in my budget, so I have to charge $5 for this route just to be able to keep this service going. I hope that helps. And if you need more, I can go deeper. On the other side, there's other accessible programs. A lot of public transit agencies will have low-income programs for fixed and for sometimes for paratransit. We had an opportunity pass that we did with a bunch of support agencies, where we had agencies who came to us that said, hey, we put a lot of people on the bus. We buy a lot of passes from you guys, and our funding is, we're struggling. Is there a way that we could just come up with some sort of program where we can put people on a bus? So we had a pass called the Opportunity Pass, and it was a pilot program that we did with, I don't remember how many agencies, but we tried to dip into each one of our service areas, and we just came up with a set price and we gave them these passes, and they were allowed to give the passes out to the clientele that they worked with. We work sometimes with some of the support agencies here on our eligibility. There's a couple of support agencies where they know our qualifications so well, and they're for paratransit, for the eligibility, and they're already screening customers probably more than we ever would. So with them, we take their applications and run them through, because we know they've already gone through more than we will. So there's a lot of different programs that different agencies will work with you on. So if you have an idea, or if you have a roadblock, I would suggest, and you're working with a transit agency and there's always a roadblock that you have, maybe come up with an idea that you can push that roadblock down, where you partner with each other. We're always looking for ideas how we can partner with, especially with all the support agencies in town, and help make life easier. There are often, not always, but often also guaranteed ride home programs for people who use transit. So we have a guaranteed ride home program, and we don't run it. It's run by our planning organization, but we support it and we push people there. So guaranteed ride home means if you're a public transit user, we know that sometimes the reason people won't ride the bus or won't do a thing is because, what if my kid gets sick and I can't get home? We're short on time, so we might lose some people. Okay, we're going to hit 2:30. So a guaranteed ride home program, it's different. You register and you'll have that available. So I'm going to skip some of these other things. And I'm just going to go to some tips and tricks that you might need just to keep you, and then I'll take whatever questions and you can reach out to me. PCA is a personal care attendant. Please know that on any transit agency in any mode that they have, PCA is ride free. So if you have a customer who needs some support and needs somebody to ride with them, have them take a PCA. They ride free. Some services require you to register a PCA or at least let them know you have one. I'd suggest doing that. Planning a bus trip, there's a lot of resources. There's mobile apps. Most transit agencies have a call center, or they have a person in there that handles mobility who will help you learn how to plan a transit trip. Navigating the application process for reduced fares and paratransit. And no, we don't still have an agreement with Enterprise that ended in January. Navigating through the application process. Usually if you get with the paratransit eligibility department, they will help you get through that application process, help try to make it easier. Scheduling paratransit, again, the eligibility department helps you do that. There's usually I think the eligibility department, and I think my eligibility team is on here, so I'm throwing all these things that they do, but they're great for helping navigate all of the things that are paratransit, and even helping you on if you have to navigate the fixed route as well. There's curb to curb and door to door service. Basically, it means the driver will either pull up to the curb, or he'll go knock on the door. That's the only difference. Most agencies have codes of conduct, and anytime I talk about transit, I always talk about safety. I just always want to stress that if you're working with a transit agency, please know that we all have a safety plan behind us, and we strongly encourage safety, and we want all of our customers and our drivers and operators to get home safely. So a lot of the reason we have some of the rules in place for our riders code of conduct all really just deal with keeping people safe. So I'm going to put my contact information up there so I don't run too long, because it looks like we have 3 minutes and I want to respect your time. So, and I'm always happy to take.
Lisa, sorry I had to put that in the chat
No, it's
box,
okay.
but I wanted to make sure we got to tips and tricks, and something that I want to make support coordinators aware of. So you and I briefly talked about travel training, and you mentioned because of certain budget issues and stuff like that, it may not be available in every area, but at one time you guys were able to kind of offer that travel training, teaching individuals how to navigate
You want me
that
to talk about that real quick?
public transportation. Yeah, go ahead and talk about that,
Yeah.
what it looks like in Kansas City. And then also I want support coordinators to be aware of, don't be afraid to, when you find out who that public transportation provider is, don't be afraid to ask them if they've
Yeah.
got a travel training option, if they've got some way of teaching people how to utilize those public transportations. So Lisa,
So,
go ahead and
yeah,
talk
travel
about it in
training
your area.
is exactly what it says. It's basically teaching people how to use the transportation options available to them. If it's a good, robust program, it'll teach them all the options available. We used to have a one-on-one. It can be, there's 3 different types. You can do one-on-one training, which is usually, it's exactly what it says. We work right with the person. There's group trainings, which and it's not only necessarily budget, it's just personnel. So right now in Kansas City, we can do groups where we can come and talk like in a classroom setting, or we can let people come down and learn about the features that are on a bus. Most agencies should allow you, if they have it available, to come look at a bus with people. We have some teachers who teach blind students who come down at least once a year. And then there's also Train the Trainer, where we can teach you how to be a transit expert so that you don't always have to come to us, and you can teach your clientele. And I'll tell you just really quickly, if you, AARP has a transportation newsletter and a focus there. The Shared Use Mobility Center, the National Center for Mobility Management, all of those places will have funding available. And I say this because if you're in an area where you have public transit and there's maybe not a travel training program, a lot of that is usually through a grant. And those are some good resources to look for outside of 5310 and 5311 funding for some other grant programs that maybe you can get some training programs up and running in your area. And I see Chad Egan, and Chad, why don't you take my email down and get with me? I see you're asking some good questions. Oh, let me give you the ball back.
Right.
Okay.
So please, if you guys have any questions for Lisa, please pop them in the chat, or even questions for Chad. So Again, special thanks to Chad and Lisa. So I've put their email addresses on the slide. So can't thank both of you enough for coming and talking to all of us about transportation, about how MoRides can help us find out who those transportation providers are in our area. And then, of course, Lisa, all your experience and advice with knowing about public transportation, how to use it, what options are available, what terms to use when asking for things. So please don't hesitate to reach out to either of them if you guys have questions. So next month, like I said, we are going to continue this transportation discussion. We will have David Hoff from UMass Boston's Institute for Community Inclusion. He will be talking to us about, some suggestions for how do we coordinate things, how, just talking like Chad was talking about, becoming familiar with those regional planning committees so that individuals and their families or their loved ones can get involved and advocate for their needs with public transportation. Lisa was kind of talking about just those accommodations with public transportation, about personal care attendants riding for free, about knowing about how our paratransit works, and even that transportation training. So hopefully David will have some more suggestions for us that we can use to help our individuals. So just a reminder, we meet every month, second Wednesday of the month, 1:30 to 2:30. So next month, July 14th, and then August 11th, September 8th, we'll be here. So also a quick reminder to you guys, when you leave, please answer those survey questions at the end of the webinar. We do take a look at them. We do use them for trying to determine topics and how we can make this webinar better for you guys, because that's what it's about. It's about making it worthwhile for you, that you all are getting what you need out of these webinars. So again, reach out to myself. I am the Employment First Specialist. I serve the eastern side of the state. Stephen Taylor is the Employment First Specialist who serves the western side of the state. So there is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to either of us anytime with any questions. And with that, thank you all. We thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for
Have a
having us.
great day. Yes.